Welcome, I'm Eric with Vast Strength. In this video, I'm going to be discussing my DIY solution for doing seated dip presses in my home gym. I'll be going over the components that I use in my own setup, but we'll also discuss some alternatives that you could use in your own home gym. If that interests you, stay tuned and we'll discuss it further. Before we begin, I do want to mention a few things first. If you're going to do a similar setup in your own home gym, do so of course at your own risk, and always please be cautious, please be safe. Secondly, the reason behind this video is because some people would express interest in seeing further details on this specific setup. I had previously posted a YouTube short in which I demonstrated myself using this setup. Although this is a slightly different setup, and this would be what I would consider my 2.0. So if you compare it to the previous short, it will be a little bit different, although not much. First off, the resistance. Although we do have weights on the back of each arm, these weights serve mainly as a counterbalance for the arms themselves. So most of the resistance is provided by the strap that's attached independently to each of the handles, and the strap then is attached to, in my case, my Darko Shorty Bar, which is then attached to my high pulley or lat pull down station for my Aries 2.0. I do recommend using some type of spanner bar. Again, in this case, I'm using the Darko Shorty Bar, but some type of spanner bar that allows you to be able to get more consistent vertical travel with your handles. I have done it without that, and it's just not quite as smooth or as effective. Next, let's discuss our specific connection here. I'm using a hammock strap, although you could use a chain or any other type of daisy chain strap. Just make sure, of course, that it's appropriately weight rated for the lifts you're doing. I have it held simply by a carabiner at the top, and at the bottom, I have it attached to the dumbbell using a landmine belt squat attachment. The reason I like to do this is because it allows it to be solidly fixed in position, so the strap's not going to slide or move. I have done it where it's attached via the strap directly to the barbell or the dumbbell, but that can lead it to slipping or changing, and I've also tried to use collars such as this and use that as my attachment, and that works as well. But again, I found that this landmine belt squat attachment is what works best. As you release the resistance from the strap above, you can see that the bar or the handle is then going to be counterbalanced by the weight, and so won't go all the way down. So let's talk about our essentially setup that we have back here behind this collar. So first off, again, I have our landmine belt squat attachment here. Then I have a UClip attachment that the bar is going through. Then I have my weight, and then I have my collar. With the height that I keep this at, what I'm able to do is, once I go from being here to being vertical, I can then release my collar, and then the bar is going to just be setting on the floor. That just makes it a lot easier for the purposes of both tear down and setup. It makes it a lot quicker. When choosing a collar, specifically I'm using my Rogue aluminum collars. You can use any collar, but I would recommend this being one of your stronger collars or most consistent collars in your collection. So this would be kind of your sword of Damocles type collar, the one that you just have the utter confidence in not failing, since obviously you've seen that you're gonna sometimes have the weight sitting near vertically up and down. It's not my favorite general use collar. That actually is the Abmat Rulox collar, which I just mentioned because it is one of my favorites, but this is the one that I have the most confidence in, that if I never want to have it fail, this is the one that I believe in wholeheartedly. Then we're going to take off our weight plate. Now all we have left is essentially our barbell or dumbbell with our landmine belt squat attachment, and then our dumbbell inserted through our UClip attachment. So I do want to make mention that with the UClip, it is important to keep this below, not above your supporting bar. So again, you want to have it sitting below for the purposes of this setup. In my setup for the handles, I'm specifically using the 36-inch loadable dumbbells made by Titan Fitness. As you can see, they have a quite impressive loadable sleeve length of about 13.5 inches. This is, I think, somewhat of a difficult piece to substitute in this setup. I think probably the most likely thing to easily substitute for it would be a type of pipe similar to the diameter and strength of a pipe that someone might build a axle barbell with. However, I'm not aware of a lot of other things that would do this job well. So I'm sorry I don't have a better substitute for it. These things are not exactly cheap. They run probably around $90 to $100 each, at least probably at the time of making this video. And they're not exactly good for a lot of uses for most home gym owners. Now, I actually like to tinker with these and I use them for a variety of different things, but for most people, you're probably not gonna find many uses for them unless maybe you wanna do like one arm, 300-pound unilateral curls, but obviously the overall use of this is fairly limited. The final thing we need to discuss in regards to setup is this support bar here, which is gonna serve essentially as the axle for our lifts. I have it held in place by my J-cups here. I do not find that it needs to be strapped down. It's very stable. However, if for your own comfort and safety, you'd prefer to have something to attach it to your uprights, I think that's very reasonable. You could, with the UClip, use a standard barbell as essentially your pivot point. You could also use, if you have pin and pipe type safeties, you could use that as your pivot point. Personally, what I settle for as a homemade solution for the pivot support is a 1-inch piece of black steel pipe and then 1¼ inch PVC pipe. With 1¼ inch PVC pipe, this will generally fit just a little bit snug, but still allow plenty of motion on the 1-inch steel pipe. I have 5 separate segments on the bar, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In the segmental section that has the attachment for essentially where I'm gonna put the UClip, I have fittings that are glued to each end, and that way the UClip stays in place. The reason I've done this is then this allows that I'm going to keep the relative distance between the two bars consistent, and so that I don't have to worry about a lot of motion or movement in my handles. And again, I'm gonna mainly get a straight vertical up and down with my exercise. I do keep a metal cap at each end, and that way I can just store this ready to go in the same holder with my barbells. For those of you rightfully concerned about the setup and teardown time, here's a quick clip with a speeded up setup and teardown, with the setup taking less than 3 minutes and the teardown taking less than 2. That is my DIY seated dip setup. I forgot to mention earlier in the video that all the products that you saw in this video were all purchased by me for my personal use. I did not receive anything from any company, nor do I have any type of financial relationship with any of the companies that produce any of the products that you saw on this video today. Additionally, I did not receive any incentive or compensation for producing this video. If you found this video at all helpful or entertaining, please consider liking and subscribing. If you have any questions about today's setup or anything else that you saw in this video, please leave it in the comments and I'll be sure to get to them as soon as I can. As always, get strong, be smart, stay safe. Thanks for watching.